What's going on, guys? Good morning. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels, and I figured in today's video, you guys could join me for my morning coffee. I'm going to break down last night's presidential debate. Incredibly entertaining. It was a huge shit show, and I guess at the same time it was kind of sad, the state of our country right now, with the backdrop of the debate being high unemployment, coronavirus going on, Americans hurting, etc., etc., etc. And I meant to make a video last night encouraging you guys to tune in and watch the debate. Because I just knew it was going to be entertaining, but also I know a lot of you guys are Redbubble t-shirt sellers, Amazon merch t-shirt sellers, digital marketers, content creators, and political memes and phrases and sayings and things like this make great selling t-shirts. Look at a couple years back when there was a whole, I think Hillary called Trump deplorable, and so then there was this whole thing where that kind of became a word of pride, and Trump supporters called themselves the deplorables. That OK Boomer meme, I would say the OK Boomer meme is somewhat political in nature. And I think the girl who created that, not only did it get a ton of attention, not only are people kind of parroting that all the time now, even though I find it to be incredibly stupid, but I think she was offered like $1.6 million to like buy the meme, basically. So there's big money, a lot of attention. It's just kind of a great topic. If you're like a t-shirt seller or something like that. Also, I think as a marketer, it helps to kind of have a pulse to society and what's going on and trends and kind of what's going on in the world. So for all those reasons, I think the debate is something you probably want to pay attention to, something you want to watch. I always people oftentimes ask me, like, how do you get all these ideas for businesses or shirts? And because I pay attention to what's going on, and ideas just kind of come to me. So pay attention to things like presidential debates. I think we're supposed to have two more after last night. I don't know if they'll wind up canceling them, but we're supposed to have two more, so probably some good ammunition or some good content for some t-shirts, some memes, things like that. I personally think our two-party system is fucked up. I mean, the choices you have right now, I think most people would agree, are horrible choices. It's like if you're on Fear Factor and they're like, would you rather eat a shit sandwich or a dirty tampon sandwich? And you're like, eating shit's pretty gross. Dirty tampons are pretty gross, but they'd probably be harder to chew. Like, you're choosing the worst of two horrible options. I know that's kind of a gross and immature example, but that's what came to me. So I think the two-party system is horrible. I don't think we should have career politicians. If it were up to me, I would encourage everybody to vote everybody out. There's the old phrase, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Don't let anybody sit in long enough to develop absolute power. Shuffle them in and out. We don't need career politicians, and that would I think the country would be a lot better if we did that. I think the country would be a lot better if we just had a drawing and randomly selected people, and you got a janitor and a school teacher and an accountant and whoever else. These are our political leaders, actually people from society, and that's kind of how the country started out, in a sense. I'm kind of rambling a bit here. Another funny thing about the debates, I don't know that anybody could go into this undecided, like, I'm gonna have to watch this debate and see which way I'm gonna go, right? The country has become so divided, we've become so tribal, that I can't see anybody on the fence between Biden or Trump, right? Like, everybody had a guy, and like the talking heads on TV said, like, you tuned in to cheer for your candidate. Like, nobody's really tuning in, like, I'll have to listen to where they stand on these issues and make an educated decision, right? Like, nobody's undecided. Like, if you support Trump, you're not going to vote for Biden. If you support Biden, you're not going to vote for Trump. A lot of people kind of poo-pooed the idea of Joe Rogan hosting a debate just because it's different. It's not something we've done before. And I don't think it's that crazy, right? Like, Trump is literally leading the country on Twitter. He's arguing with foreign leaders on Twitter. If we can conduct policy on social media, surely we can have a debate on a podcast, especially since most people have, I don't know about most people, but a good portion of the country has cut the cord. They don't have cable. They don't watch the traditional news. They get their news, they get their information from podcasts, from blogs. Nobody really gets a newspaper anymore. Nobody watches the Channel 5 news to get their information. Nobody watches CNN. Most people are getting their news from podcasts and alternative sources anyways. So is it really crazy that we'd watch a debate on a podcast, or that Joe Rogan would host a debate? And after watching last night's debate, could Joe Rogan really do a worse job? I mean, I think the debate format in and of itself is kind of horrible. Here's a topic. Here's your question. You have 30 seconds to answer, and that candidate basically completely ignores the question and talks about something else while the other guy is talking over him. And then it's the other guy's turn to ignore the question and talk about something else while that candidate talks over him. It's just a horrible shit format. And I think people actually enjoy Joe Rogan's kind of long form content. Joe Rogan, I think, would kind of keep the candidates' heels to the fire and wouldn't let them ignore questions, and there wouldn't be a 30-second clock that runs out and allows you to dodge a question. As far as the actual debate, for the first half or three quarters, I was really paying close attention, kind of taking pretty detailed notes here. And then I got high and I had to go get myself a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's kind of my evening cheat meal these days. So I couldn't hear the TV over my crunching, and I was eating, so I couldn't take notes. So I kind of quit taking notes. I don't think I'm going to bring you guys through this whole thing and analyze kind of all my talking points or all my notes. But I figure we kind of run through these. Overall, here was kind of my assessment of the debate. I thought Trump, which isn't really surprising, was kind of overbearing, was kind of a bully, continued to talk over Biden. And it was almost a joke where like Chris Wallace would be like, Mr. Trump, will you please be quiet? It's his turn to, will you please? And it just went on and on and on. And it was almost like an older brother picking on his younger brother or sister, where Chris Wallace kept having to like lecture Donald Trump. What I really think they should do is get a soundproof phone booth and make the candidate who's not answering a question sit in that phone booth so he can't interrupt. I think that would be a pretty common sense thing to do. But I think Trump came off as a blowhard, talked too much, continually talked over Biden, came across as kind of rude. As far as Biden called Trump a clown. He continually called him the worst president in U.S. history. There were times that he got mad and flustered and kind of lost his cool. I think he seemed a little bit more meek. And obviously going into this, a lot of people are saying Biden has dementia. He's not all there. His mind, he's not in a good state of health or a good mental state. And he actually performed, I would say, better. He didn't put on a good performance. I thought he performed better than I thought he would. One thing Biden's got to stay away from is throwing out numbers. He'll be like, there's 200 trillion voters. 200 million. 200,000. There's 200 vote. And just like every time he tried to state a fact. And I'm not, I misspeak on this channel all the time. And I'm a young, healthy guy who I think I'm not a complete idiot. But I stumble and use the wrong words and things like that all the time. I tend to talk pretty fast. So, I'm not going to hold that too. I'm not going to say, oh, Biden has dementia because he goofs up numbers. But it's just, I don't know, watching Biden, like, there was kind of like a hollow look in his eyes. He just doesn't seem like he's all there. And he was a little bit kind of bumbling at parts, like kind of rambling, trailing off. The first topic that they covered was the Supreme Court. And obviously that's a big issue right now. The issue basically being the Democrats are saying, look, we're in an election cycle. Let's just wait until we get the new president to name the new Supreme Court justice. And the Republicans are like, look, Trump won. He's got 4 years. It's time right now to name a new justice. So it's well within his right to do that. Biden basically said, hey, let's give the American people a choice to kind of voice their direction of the country and who they vote for president, and then let that president pick the Supreme Court. And because we're so close to an election, we should do that. And Trump's is basically saying, look, the people did decide. I was elected to 4 years. This is still within my 4 years. I should be able to name somebody. And then he referenced Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who within the past decade had said the same thing. Basically, a president is elected for 4 years. They're elected for a term of 4 years. They're not elected for a term of 3 years. So we shouldn't give them shit about trying to make policy in their last year, because they were elected to serve 4 years, not 3 years. If we don't want Trump electing somebody, we need to make a rule. You can't elect a Supreme Court justice in the second half of your term or in the last year of your term. So that was kind of a big issue. One thing that, I think both parties I hate both parties. I think both parties are hypocrites. And I don't really understand the whole filibuster thing. I think filibuster is either it used to be you needed 60 votes to pass something, and now you only need 51. You just need a very slight majority. Or it might be to push something back. You now need 60, whereas you used to only need 51. But basically, it makes it harder to make policy, harder to make a decision. And I believe the Democrats made that policy in order to push Obamacare through. And now that that policy is kind of coming back to bite them in the butt with the Supreme Court choice, now they want to roll that back. And, I just think that's kind of a good lesson for everybody. If you put forward a shitty policy to benefit yourself, realize there'll be some day when that policy is going to be used against you as well. So just don't be a shitty person and don't do shitty kind of backhanded things. Biden brought up, Roe v. Wade is kind of a big issue. Biden said that's on the ballot. Trump said it's not on the ballot. You don't even know how my candidate feels about that. Trump made kind of a funny comment to Chris Wallace. He's like, I feel like I'm debating you and not him. Like I said, Trump seemed a bit rude, a bit snappy, talked over. And I feel like all presidents are like that in a debate. I think that's why debates are so frustrating to watch, because nobody answers the questions and everybody's constantly talking over the other person. I didn't think Biden was too bad with talking over Trump. I thought he was less bad than other presidents are in other debates, but I also kind of think that's kind of because Biden's not all there and isn't really in a position to be making like snappy, witty kind of remarks and things like that. Biden at one point said, "Will you shut up, man? This is so unpresidential." When in a presidential debate, somebody said, "Hey, will you shut up, man?" And that's the type of ammo I'm talking about for like making t-shirts. Something like that would make a great t-shirt. So the first subject was the Supreme Court. Second subject was COVID. Chris Wallace basically had to lecture both of them at the beginning to behave. Let's see, my notes. Trump is loud and overbearing, but Biden didn't do a great job at responding. Biden keeps messing up his numbers, saying 200 million, oops, no 200,000, oops, no 200. Trump came out against shutdowns at first, but said we know at first, now we Trump basically came out against shutdowns, and I thought Trump did play the coronavirus thing kind of smart. Like, coronavirus has become a very contested issue, right? And it's become a very partisan issue where Democrats kind of want to lock down and take coronavirus very seriously. Republicans want to open the economy, and I don't want to say don't believe in the coronavirus, but kind of think it's overhyped. And I think taking either side, you're going to lose half the country. So I thought Trump was kind of smart in that he kind of downplayed the virus and said we can't shut down the whole country. There's bad, economic effects. But then when they brought up, like, why are you against people wearing masks? Why do you have big rallies? Oh, well, we do our rallies very safe, and I'm not against masks. And he pulls a mask out of his pocket. See, I have a mask. If you guys want to wear masks, we can all wear masks. So I thought Trump did a decent job of playing to his base, who's kind of who aren't big, like, lockdown, coronavirus is super serious people, will also, not necessarily turning off people who are scared of the coronavirus. Trump mask. I thought this was good. Trump mask shamed Biden. Ha 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 was in my notes. He's like, you're always wearing a mask. If you could wear a giant mask, you'd wear a mask. But I just thought that was kind of funny. Trump was smart against masks. Okay, so I feel like I already kind of commented on that. Trump was kind of smart in that he wasn't against masks, but he wasn't for all this lockdown craziness. Trump kind of brought up, an increase in suicide, spousal abuse, drug abuse, overdoses, all these negative effects of the lockdown. One thing, and I'm not picking on Biden for this, I think everybody does this, but I think it's funny when, like, Biden's calling frontline workers heroes, and frontline workers are not first responders like police and fire. Frontline workers are the guy working at Subway, the guy working at McDonald's, the guy working at the grocery store. I find it funny when the government talks about them like they're heroes. When, I'm not talking shit about them, but frontline workers aren't heroes, right? Like, they need a fucking paycheck, and they have to go to work to get that paycheck. It's not like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for society so that everybody can come buy their milk at the grocery store. Like, frontline workers are not coming at it from this attitude. They're like, my fucking rent's due in 2 weeks, and I can't afford to stay home. So I think it's kind of disingenuous when the government, like, doesn't support the people, but then is like, you guys are heroes, keep it up. And it's like, yeah, I just need to pay my fucking rent. Okay. So then my next note is when to get Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It possibly switched to the economy as a topic. So I was trying to listen to from the other room. But I think I missed when they transitioned to the economy, and I kind of stopped taking as close a notes here. The topic of whether Trump paid $750 in federal income taxes came up, Wallace asked if that's true. Trump says, no, I paid millions. And Trump says, Chris Wallace is like, well, will you tell us an exact amount of what you paid? And Trump's like, I paid millions. And Wallace is like, will you release the documents? And Trump's like, yes, as soon as they're done, I'll release 2016 and 2017. I really don't think he will. I think that was just like, hey, let's just appease him for now. Let's get past this, and then we'll push it off, and people kind of forget about it later. But Trump did say he'll show his taxes when they're finished. And, we're living in a society where, like, people, things are going towards, like, kind of a socialist nature. People kind of hate on people who are rich and successful. I think the big reason Trump won't show his tax returns is because I don't think he's as good of a business person as the image he likes to portray. And I think if he shows that he's been losing money with his businesses year after year, that doesn't look, that's kind of Trump's big thing. He's the business guy. He runs businesses. That's why he can run the country. And if he's not as good of a business guy as he likes to portray himself to be, that'll kind of take the luster off of him as a candidate. And so I think that's the reason he wants to kind of hide them. I don't think it's about what he paid in taxes. Trump did kind of say, like, look, Biden, you've been in, and this is a point that Trump hammered time and time again. He's like, Biden, you've been in politics for like 45 years or whatever. Like, why haven't you made these changes that you're talking about? Why, and obviously Biden wasn't president. Nobody has all the power to do anything, but, like, why didn't you do more with your time? And, like, you made these tax policies that I'm able to take advantage of, and, like, as a business owner, I'd be an idiot if I didn't make the system work for me. But at the same time, he didn't want to push that issue too hard because people kind of hate rich people, business owners, etc. Trump had a kind of a one-liner. He said, I've done more in 47 months than you've done in 47 years. Let's see. Trump really hammered on the point of Biden's son getting paid $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow, I think it was. Biden didn't really say it. Biden just kept saying, it's been discredited, but didn't really address the issue. And Trump kept coming back and kind of hammering on that issue. There was one point where Biden tried to bring up his son Beau was I believe he served in Afghanistan. He was in the military. I think he might have been a military lawyer or something like that. But he's like, my son, but you said that the military were suckers. My son Beau, I'm proud of him, and he was in the military. And he's like, I don't know Beau, but I do know, was it Hunter that got kicked out of the military? Anyhow, he's talking about Biden's two sons, and he's like, when Biden brought up one of his sons, Trump was like, I don't know him, but I do know your other son who was kicked out of the military, dishonorably discharged for doing cocaine, didn't have a job. You set him up in politics, and now he's getting millions of dollars from, Russian politicians. Seems kind of shady to me. And Biden's like, no, that's been discredited. Biden at this point called Trump a clown. There was a funny part where Biden kind of slipped up. It was following this point where they were talking about his son. He's like, you want to talk about family and ethics? And I thought he was going to come after, like, something with, like, Trump's family or whatever. He's like, I don't want to talk about family and ethics. And it was kind of like, it kind of backfired on him, right? He was like, you want to talk about this topic that you're hammering me on? I don't want to talk about it. And he didn't mean to do that. But I just thought that was kind of a funny slip up. Another point that Trump kind of hammered Biden on when they got to, like, being tough on crime and things like that. I thought Hillary was the one that called black people or African Americans super predators. Maybe it was Biden, but Trump was really hammering on, back during the 94 crime bill or whatever it was, you called blacks super predators. Is that how you feel? You feel like blacks are super predators? And then he really hammered on kind of the law and order thing with all the riots going on across the country. And he's like, you're about to lose the left right now. You're about to, because basically if Biden goes for law and order and justice and not defunding the police, he's going to lose the far left, right? Because they want to defund the police. They think the police are corrupt and racist and everything else. So there were maybe 2 or 3 points throughout the debate when Trump, like, really kind of put Biden into a corner and made him, like, answer a question that was basically going to make him alienate one side of his party, or at least one side of the voting public. So let's see, we're at almost 20 minutes here. This isn't a political channel. I try not to get too political unless it directly affects business or entrepreneurship or something like that. But I think who the next president is going to affect all of our lives. I thought the debate was a complete shit show and pretty entertaining. And I think it's always a good place to kind of source content and phrases and memes as a marketer, as a t-shirt designer, etc. I haven't watched too much of the talking head commentary after the debate, but literally the second the debate ended, and I was watching it on Roku. I don't have live TV, so Roku put it on, and I think Roku was carrying NBC's version of it. And like literally the second the debate ended, the first thing that they said was like, that was the worst debate in American history. And then like they went on from talking head to talking head, and they were like, that was a fucking embarrassment. That was a shit show. So that's kind of the consensus, that like this thing was a complete and utter shit show. If you went into it a Trump supporter, you're going to come out of it a Trump supporter, and you're going to think Trump won. If you went into it a Biden supporter, you're going to come out of it saying that Biden won. I think both people were losers, as well as the American public. But yeah, nonetheless, they put on a good show, so I guess that's all that matters, right? Let me know your guys' thoughts. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the debate last night. Let me know, I don't know if you want to keep them to yourself, I completely understand, but if you picked out any great one-liners that would make like a good election kind of t-shirt or something like that, and you don't mind sharing, drop those down below. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.